as much as possible. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Salim, I think you wanted to lead off.
Yeah, I'm having a little bit of a technical difficulty since I'm switching to my laptop. I need to have that PowerPoint available. So give me a couple of minutes.
Okay. All right. Well, Joe, did you want to share any words of wisdom while Salim is working on his laptop? Yeah, unmute yourself.
There we am. I unmuted?
Yes.
That's good.
You're good
Okay,
now.
Good. Been working the last couple of days on finalizing the directory, getting club visits aligned, trying to review how in the world I'm going to make club visits virtually through the end of the year, as suggested by RI President Kanak. My intention is to make these visits, formal visits, the first 3 months, and then follow up the first 2 quarters next year with visits, social, civic, or fundraising, and be a participant. That will require me to return at least twice to each club. Been putting together also objectives and goals for myself to put that in the directory, as well as putting packets together to get all the club presidents talking about what we're going to do with pets, some folders that we picked up and intended to hand them at Effingham, quite a few other brochures that are there, Polio Plus, several avenues of service. But I looked at this and it's going to cost $13 a piece to mail these. So I think in the next week to 10 days, I'm going to find my way with a little bit of help to provide these directly to all the club presidents, the incoming PEs. It'll be a packet about 2 inches thick, 8.5 by 11 in overall size. Things going well. I've still got a couple of appointments yet to put in place, and scrambling to fill a couple of those that have vacated here in the last 30 days. So I'm glad in one sense that we did not have the directory completed. Another sense, it would have been nice to have had it to do a little bit of reference as needed. We're moving forward. Looking at an installation, I was looking at June 27th in Crawfordsville. We will not be able to do that, I'm sure, because of the social distancing. So we will probably have a video installation. I don't like that, and I know Shu doesn't like that for a farewell, but I don't know of any way around it unless we delay it. Maybe have a Zoom style formal installation, but have a gathering then soon there to follow and do some awarding. We'd even talked about doing the speech contest at that function, which if we delay it, that might work out fairly well. Other than that, wide open for questions. Anybody has any?
Okay. This isn't working like it's supposed to. We rehearsed this yesterday, but I I should have had my backup plan in place. I need to import the PowerPoint into my computer. Okay, let's see how we're going to do that.
Well, you go ahead and work. I'll get started on my presentation.
Go ahead.
And then we can put you in there when you're set to go.
Okay.
So welcome everybody. Of course, you know we have to have a little housekeeping at every meeting. You all know where the restrooms are. Right. And when you take the meeting survey at the end, I don't want any complaints about how hot or how cold it is in the room. That's up to you. So please keep yourself muted if you have family members around, you know, so that everybody can hear. If you have any questions, raise your hand and or go to the chat room, and Ryan will let me know that you have a question, and then we'll bring you in. And did you have anything you wanted to share with us this morning? Unmute yourself.
You have to unmute. You almost had it.
Shu, you need to unmute yourself.
How's that?
There you go.
All right, just a privilege to honor all the Rotarians that are on Zoom this morning. Thank you for your willingness to participate. And Steve and Salim, thank you for your training opportunity and for the good next year readiness of Governor-elect Joe, who's getting ready to go, and we're going with him. It's a great year. It'll be different. Just a reminder to everyone that the Rotary Annual Fund matching points continues today through June 1. We have 4 clubs that reached Paul Harris Fellow 100%. Wow.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Flora, also Rockville, along with Attica Williams, and also Craigsville. So I'd just like for everyone to give those 4 clubs a woohoo. Wow.
Whoa. Well, very good. And since you brought up the annual fund and so for the fundraising, I always like to put a plug in for that Amazon deal that's going, where the Rotary Global Rewards. I hope everyone knows about that and uses it. If you don't know, Amazon is giving Rotary International somewhere between 4 and 5% of the sales that are made through Rotary Global Rewards. So if you don't know about it, go to Global Rewards, Rotary Global Rewards, and the first item that pops up is Amazon. Just click on it. You'll go to the Amazon website, buy your stuff, and the foundation will benefit from it. So really a good deal. I keep that screen that pops up after you go to Global Rewards. When you first start up, I keep that screen bookmarked, so that whenever I go to Amazon, I always go to that bookmark. And they've made a lot of money just from my spending. All right, so district grant management seminar. So why are we? Let's see. I gotta share my screen. And here we are. And from the beginning. All right. Hope everybody can see that okay. So we're here to do grant management seminar. So understand the purpose of the whole meeting is to understand the Rotary grants process, learn stewardship expectations, prepare clubs to implement the memorandum of understanding, and of course qualify clubs to receive grant funding. I hope that you all received and printed out, or did in some way or shape or form have the slides that I sent out, so you can make notes as we go through the session here. So qualification requirements. Clubs must qualify to receive Rotary Foundation Global or District grants. The process ensures that clubs are aware of Rotary requirements before receiving grant funds and provides clubs with the tools needed to complete these requirements. By attending this training, participants complete the first step toward qualification. One club member must attend this seminar annually and then share the information with fellow club members. The second step is to have the club president and president-elect sign and submit the club MOU. Since we started using DAC-DB grant module, This signing is accomplished by ticking the appropriate boxes in the application. It is no longer necessary to print, sign, upload the MOU or the MOU compliance questionnaire. The questionnaire you can just use as an in-house review tool to make sure that your club is thinking about all of the little things that need to be thought about in order to live up to the requirements of the MOU. So the qualification is valid for 1 year only. The club is responsible for the funds. Clubs need to disclose any conflicts of interest. Now, the conflicts of interest, might be a club member or another Rotarian in the district providing goods or services. We have to be very cautious of those types of things and be sure that we get more than one bid for any of those types of things that might come up. The clubs will need to cooperate with any audits, use grant funds properly, and of course, implement the policies stated in the MOU. So let's see, qualification. Follow terms of the club MOU. It'd be nice to appoint a club member or committee to manage qualification. It would, since I deal with all the clubs and I get different people, different time, different years from the clubs, it would be nice to have someone step up in the club and be that club qualification person or DAC-DB person for the grants. Because when I was dealing with one of the helpers at DAC-DB Tech Services, they were kind of alluding to the fact that, well, people will get used to using the system. Well, that's not quite true, because my experience shows that probably 85% of the people who get on the DAC-DB grants module, it's the first time they've ever been there. So it would really be beneficial for someone in every club to kind of take on the role of the qualifications manager and DAC-DB person for grants. Besides the club, the club secretary is pretty well versed in DAC-DB, but the grants module is a different animal altogether. So, and then let's see, fully implement stewardship practices. And we'll talk more about bank account and all that as we go through here. So let's design the project. We'd like to have a 3-person grant committee. I'm sure you can understand why we might want a 3-person committee. You never know when somebody's going to either drop out of Rotary or, just not be able to participate anymore. And if that's the case and they've been running a 1-person show, people are lost. They don't know what to do next. So we need a 3-person committee. You want to assign the roles for the different people on the committee. It gets more Rotarians involved too, which is very helpful. Make your implementation plan. Establish the budget. Dealing with some of the grants, I can tell that people haven't really given a lot of thought to the budget in some instances. Have a contingency plan. And of course, have a document retention plan. And this is one of the benefits of DAC-DB grants module. We have, when you can upload the stuff that we ask for, the receipts, the canceled checks, that type of thing, some pictures, all that, but you can upload anything else you want on the DAC-DB website. Is a great place to put that stuff as an archive, but remember that it's only good, they'll probably only keep it for 5 years. And DAC-DB will probably eliminate the 6th year of history. So you need a retention plan to keep all your documents. Hopefully you have a a club historian or something that is going to take this documentation and keep it for use when you have your 100th anniversary and all that kind of thing. So, creating the budget. The budget should be realistic and comprehensive to ensure adequate funding. When choosing a supplier, Rotarians should use competitive bidding to make sure they're getting the best products and services at the best prices. Clubs should keep records on any submitted bids. Clubs must disclose any potential or real conflicts of interest. So as you know, there are two different kinds of grants. We're going to specialize today mainly on district grants, just to make the training session a little shorter. But you have two different grants. District grants were good for up to $5,000, and global grants which start at $30,000. So as you know, there's a big difference there between the project sizes. And district grants can be used in the local community, or you can use them for international projects. Now, global grants are international projects only, of course, and have to have a Rotary Club on the other end. District grants worked internationally do not require Rotarians on the other end. So you can set up a completely different process. We ask for district grants to be completed during the year that they're awarded. Now, we know that this doesn't always work. This year, I think we're going to find a lot of carryover because of the problem that we're in. But we ask for all the clubs to submit an interim report on DAC-DB. It's very simple to do. 4 simple little questions, and it helps the committee understand where you are on the project, the likelihood of it being completed and when, that type of thing. So it just keeps us informed of what you're doing. So, and of course, those interim reports are due May 15th. And unfortunately, we still have about 15 grants open for this Rotary year, and nobody has given me an interim report. So I hope that we'll be having some of those soon, or you'll be getting some emails.
Steve, this is Hugh. Excuse me for the interruption, but you kept saying on the other end, on the other end.
Yep,
would you explain to everyone what you mean by that?
Okay, those folks who are receiving the grant. So, you know, it would be, you know, if you're going to work the grant, let's see, we did some filters in Guatemala, I think. So the other end would be the people receiving the grant, the other country. Okay. So how are we doing this? The funding, it's a one-to-one match. Clubs have to provide 50% of the funding. Minimum grant size is $250. Maximum is $5,000. Although we're going to talk about that in a little while, due to this year's abundance of funds. And clubs may apply for more than one grant each year. We have some clubs that apply for 2 or 3 grants a year. And if the funds are available, the clubs will receive those grants. The important part of this is that in the grant application, there is a field called priority. And so you need to prioritize your grants to make sure that they're either the first, second, or third priority. Which one is most important to your club so that we can get you the grants that you want without a lot of confusion. So applications are due, and here's a boo-boo. Originally, they were due May 15th, but we changed that to June 15th. I might explain the reason for this tight time frame. I tried to explain it in that email that came out that invited you to this meeting. You know, the district has the responsibility of submitting this thing called a spending plan. It's only submitted once each year. And in that spending plan, we list all the grant applications from all the clubs. And it all goes to the foundation staff at one time. They look at it, they approve it, or they send me back a message saying, well, what about this or what about that? And we, of course, answer those questions. And then hopefully they will approve it. But being a one-time shot, we need to have at least 80% of our funds that we plan on spending for the year. We have to have 80% of those funds already earmarked by club grant applications so that we can hold on to the 20%. The foundation allows us to hold 20% for future things that come up during the year. So we need about $96,000 in grants applications so that we can satisfy that requirement and move on and get the grants approved for the year and get the clubs working on the grants. You know, clubs are not allowed to work on the grants until they are approved. So we try to keep to this tight time frame of getting the grants in, getting them submitted to Rotary, getting the approval, and getting them back to the clubs. So, okay, the DAC-DB module, we'll go over this. We're lucky here in this situation that we have the ability to pull up the screen, and we will go over all of this for those that are going to, I think almost everybody's going to stay except for 3. So you go to grants view and then click create a grant and so forth. This is a pretty easy methodology, but it can get confusing. There are extra resources, additional resources that you can use to understand the grants. The grant memorandum of understanding is very important. The terms and conditions. Both of these documents should be read and understood by the club president and club president-elect. The terms and conditions document is a wonderful document. If you have insomnia, you can certainly benefit from it, but you should understand it. The grant compliance questionnaire was something that we created here in the district. It's just something that you can use to make sure that your club is thinking about all the things necessary to conform to the memorandum of understanding. And these forms are available on the left-hand side of the grants module under the Grant Secure Files tab. So, forms. Download and review the forms, which is basically the MOU. We need to acknowledge the acceptance of the policies of the MOU and of the terms and conditions. Okay, final report. Grant final reports. I've always suggested that people who are going to be doing the final report read the final report before they get started with the grant. You have to know what metrics you need to track. So look at the back of the DAC-DB. It's called Final Report. There's a tab called Final Report. Just look at that and you'll see miraculously that much of the data that is required in the final report appears magically in the report. It is taken from your application. but there are I think four other fields that need some minor input. So please look at that. Now, final reports are due within 2 months of completion of that project. Now, I don't know how many times I have, many times, I have contacted the club saying, hey, where's your final report? They say, oh, you know, I meant to turn it in. We finished that 6 months ago. Well, you know, if you don't turn in the final report, you don't get paid. I have one club that I contacted yesterday and said, hey, where's your final report from last year? He says, oh, he says, I just thought it was too late to turn it in. I thought, well, no, the money's sitting here. If you turn in the final report, you'll get paid. So make it a policy. When you complete a project, that's something else that grant manager in your club can handle, can help you keep up with, is getting the grants closed out. You want to scan and submit all the receipts and cancel checks and that kind of stuff to show that in case of an audit in the future, this is where you're putting all this stuff for an archive. It's just a good place to put it. And then we ask everybody to enter your project in Rotary Showcase. I hope you've been to Rotary Showcase. It's an excellent place to see what's going on in the Rotary world. And it was started by Rotary to try to determine what Rotarians are actually accomplishing in the world. There's 4 fields at the bottom of that actually track the number of hours and dollars and so forth that Rotarians spend. You know, we can certainly track all of the funds that are spent on global grant projects and more or less on district grant projects. But what about all those other projects in your clubs that you do? We ask everybody to enter all of your club projects in Rotary Showcase. You know, there has been some estimation that Rotarians are probably contributing maybe up to $1 billion a year around the world in benefits to the public. So we'd like to prove that someday, and we can do that by entering our information in the Rotary Showcase. So a little oversight and reporting. Any questions? Okay, so stewardship is responsible for oversight and grant funds. So we want to report any irregularities. We want to have Rotarian supervision. This is really important on global grants. We want a good, clean financial records. One of the ways to make sure that we have good financial records is to make sure that every club has a bank account for grants, a checking account only for grants. We hope that every club does this. Oversight of funds, just what it says there. And then the timely submission of reports. You know, that oversight is transparency and accountability of grant funds, affects donors' confidence and so forth in the Rotary Foundation. We have to make sure that we don't have any irregularities in our funding. Stewardship is important. So here's the bank account funds. Now, bank accounts, as we say, for district grants, just one bank account for district funds. You can use it year after year after year, but have a bank account for district funds. If you get a global grant in the future, you must have a bank account exclusively for that global grant. It makes it possible then to, once your club receives the funds, it's important to, let's see. You can use your checks or your bank cards, and of course you'll have a detailed ledger on where the monies are going. Okay, document retention. Part of it is going to be on your DAC-DB account for district grants. Any global grants, you got to come up with your own documentation, storage, archiving, and that type of thing. Must be retained for 5 years for audit purposes, and or you should have a historian or something that keeps track of all your activities, and you want plenty of copies, backups, and all these things should be available to any club member. It's just part of the transparency of the funds. We want to make sure that anybody who has a question, anybody in your club wants to know where these monies are going, they can see it without any problem. All right, reporting requirements. Reporting is a requirement. It's a key component of proper stewardship. If a club has already completed an evaluation of the project and maintained records in accordance with the club memorandum of understanding, completing Rotary's reporting requirements is simple. Reporting verifies that the grants were managed properly and implemented in accordance with the policies. It also provides an opportunity for communications between partners, building trust and a continued partnership, particularly for those global grants, but also, we do establish partnerships here on the ongoing partnerships locally. Reporting allows project partners and foundations to celebrate successes and learn from the challenges, and encourages future giving because donors are confident that their funds have been used as intended. It provides valuable evaluation data for the foundation. It allows Rotary to demonstrate to current and future donors its effectiveness and the impacts of grants. And it allows project outcomes in each area of focus to be aggregated and marketed to Rotary audiences. So it's very important that we get those final reports in. And lo and behold, by cutting down and cutting out the global grant process, we're done. Very early. Salim, did you manage to come up with your PowerPoint?
And I apologize to all those who are participating for my failure to have done that ahead of time. Are you ready for me to get started?
Well, let's ask for questions.
Yeah.
Your screen share. You are sharing. Okay, there you go. All right. Any questions, folks? We went through that really quick, and we weren't able to look out and really see the foggy look on your face or any of that kind of thing. So ask away if there's anything that comes to mind. Just unmute yourself and ask away.
Hey, Steve, Ryan Henry here, Indianapolis East.
Mm-hmm.
So since a second member from my club, Don Henley, was able to join, I want to make review because we had to double check this before. For district grants, we just need one specific bank account earmarked only for projects that we've been awarded district grants for. Is that correct?
That is correct. It just gives you a great place to track all your expenses. Just the whole, the whole financial aspect of your grant can be tracked through your checking account.
Okay, understood. And then the only time we have to have a specific account for each project is when we've been awarded a global grant.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Joe. Unmute yourself.
Steve, what's the percentage in our district of global grants versus district grants?
Oh, hands down, district grants. You know, we have
90-10.
95%. I don't know, Salim, I think you kind of keep track of global grants more than I do.
Well, I think it's fair to say that we use all of our district grant money every year. And it's fair to say that we use just about every dollar we have for our global grants almost every year. So when your total dollars spent, we're spending just as much on one as we are on the other.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, the number of grants might vary because we have 44 clubs and you may have 44 district grants and we may not have 44 global grants, but the size of global grants are much bigger, so it makes up for that.
Steve used the number of $96,000 for the spending plan requirement that'll go to RI. So we'll have in the neighborhood of 115 to 120,000 for DDF money.
Right.
Yes.
What will we have for global money?
The same amount, 120.
Will be a full amount?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because, see, we are allocated, the way the foundation operates this is that we are allowed to spend up to 50% of that DDF from 3 years prior. And so, you know, we don't have to allocate 50% to district grants, but we always have in the past. You know, this year's unusual because of such great fundraising work done by Bryce. But if we don't, the reason why we want to get up to that 96,000 is so that we can meet that requirement for maintaining the 20% for stuff that comes up during the year. And always some club will come, you know, almost within a month of closing, sending in the spending plan, a club will come to me and say, "Hey, Steve, can we get a grant for?" Well, you know, we just happen to have some bucks here in the reserve. So yeah, it works out well that way.
Thank you.
Steve?
Yes.
Bob, Gwendon, Fishers Rotary.
Yeah.
Hey, just wanted to add to, just for everybody that's on, and I'm not sure who all would be a incoming club president or not, but I think it's interesting when we do this seminar to note that this is a little bit in the rears. You know, we're talking today, Steve commenting about how the district grants from last Rotary year, 2019, 2020, are being wrapped up. And as an incoming club president, it's important to note that this application for a district grant needs to be identified, filled out, and submitted by that June 15th deadline for next Rotary year, the coming Rotary year, 2020-2021. So you as an incoming club president hopefully have met with your board, or at least have some idea of the direction you'd like to go as an incoming club president. Not being able to meet in person may have made that a little difficult, but it's important to know that you know, this is happening now, and it's important to have that submitted before that June deadline. The good news is you've got an extra month to do it, and the second good news is that you've got more money than the district has had in quite a while to submit for grants. So please get it done. Thanks.
Thank you, Bob. What else?
Governor, sure.
I think in light of piggybacking on Bob's comment, it's a wonderful year for clubs to really go all out with these grants. Thinking about this year, we had about $82,000 in terms of DDF. And for next year, or this coming year, beginning July 1, as you said, Steve and Joe, you're looking at about $115,000. So I hope that clubs that are on with this training will get aggressive in really doing some wonderful grants that will provide great service in the community.
Great, thank you, Shu.
Steve, let's piggyback on that comment. Let's
Okay.
piggyback and share the good news with everybody here. With the consent of the district governor-elect, we are raising the maximum allowable from 5,000 to 7,500. How about that?
Wow.
So all those who have already applied can have another crack at their application. And if they need additional funding, they can go up to 7,500 requests. And if those who have not applied can take that 7,500 and build on it and submit an application by June 15th. How's that?
That should make people happy.
Joe is smiling. Okay. With that, if you would allow me to apologize first for the hiccup. As Governor Shu knows, and as Governor-elect Joe will know shortly, that for every electronic presentation, you have to have a plan B, just in case something happens. And even though Steve and I rehearsed this yesterday, I did not anticipate that I would need to pull up my laptop instead of my desktop. So anyway, I apologize for the delay. But now with your permission, I'm going to share the screen and I'm going to make a short presentation to you. And I hope that you can see that.
Yep, it's coming through.
Okay. Trying to. Okay. Everybody see that?
You need to start your show.
I need to start my show. Okay. How do I start my show? Okay, you don't see that slide?
Salim, you're going to want to hit the projector icon towards the top of your screen, all the way at the left. You'll see the, okay, keep going to your left, right there. There you go.
All right, there we go.
Oh, okay, very good.
You see that? Okay. Let's have some definitions first. I know you're all familiar with Rotary definitions. TRF stands for the Rotary Foundation. DDF, which you will hear a lot about, is district designated funds. EREY, every Rotarian every year. And what does that mean for those new to this presentation or similar presentations? The EREY, every Rotarian every year, means contribution to the Rotary Foundation at an average of $100 per member worldwide. So total contributions from our district is called the annual fund. So if we were to take the number of Rotarians in our district and multiply by 100, that's our annual fund goal. So where does this grant funding come from? We're talking about district grants and global grants, and we want to know where this money actually comes from. The grant funds are a share of our annual fund contributions to the Rotary Foundation, meaning when we contribute money to the Rotary Foundation under what is called the annual fund, half of those contributions that go to the foundation return to the district in the form of district designated funds. So here's an example of a district, for example, of an annual fund. The EREY is $100. Let's say there are 2,000 Rotarians in that district. So that means the annual fund goal is $200,000. So if we meet that goal in this particular district, and we make $200,000 in contributions, those $200,000 are invested for the period of 3 years. They are invested in accordance with the finance committee of the Rotary Foundation that does an excellent job of investing money for maximum returns. Those investment income during those 3 years return to the foundation to operate the Rotary Foundation. So you can see that the principal of $200,000 remains available 3 years hence. So the investments proceeds on the 200,000 runs the foundation, and the 200,000 is still available after 3 years for use by the district. So what happens to that $200,000 that becomes available to us? 50% of it goes to the district designated funds, as we mentioned earlier, which means $100,000 will flow to the district. The other 50% goes to what's called the World Fund. So in this particular scenario, the World Fund gets 100,000 and the district designated funds get 100,000. So what happens to the $100,000 that comes to the district? That again is split 50-50, where 50% goes to the district grants, and that's around 50,000, and the other 50% is dedicated to the global grants. And the question is, well, what happens to the money that goes to the World Fund? That money in the World Fund is used to match our global grants funding. When we have global grants that the club sponsors a project, they contribute so much money, the district matches that, and then the foundation matches the club's money and matches the district money. So that World Fund is used for that matching scenario. So this year, there's about $200,000 available to our district because of the investment proceeds of 3 years hence. We have about $200,000 available to our district. Let's use it. And this is in the World Fund we're talking about. Let's use that 200,000. So back to the $50,000 that the district grant receives for district grant funds. So here we're talking about matching the applications up to $5,000, but we just increased it just for this year to $7,500. So I hope everybody makes note of the fact that you have just heard something new today. The rest of the clubs have not heard about this yet, but they will soon hear about it. And $50,000 is dedicated to the Global Grants Fund. The Global Grants, as we mentioned a little earlier, the minimum has to be $30,000 budget on a global grant, while there is no limit on the district grants up to $10,000. The district matches the club's contribution at 100% for a global grant. The foundation matches the district contribution at 100%, and the foundation matches the club's contribution at 50%. And if there are individuals that come either from the club or outside the club who contribute to that particular global grant, their contributions is also matched at 50%. So you can see how it can multiply very easily if you are supporting a global grant. The bottom line is that the more our district Rotarians contribute to the annual fund, and we still have another month and a half to build up our annual fund for this year so that Shu can retire happy by the end of June. So the more we contribute to the annual fund, the more we get back from the Rotary Foundation to fund our community and worldwide projects. So it's just a simple math. The more we contribute, the more we get back, and the more we're able to support projects locally and internationally. So I hope that that gives you a little bit of a primer on, you can take it over now, Henry. Do we have any questions on that? No, really? It was that good?
Oh, that's good. That's good. All right. Well, we're way ahead of schedule.
Well, we can give everybody a break to get a refreshment or a snack, and then
Yeah.
That sounds
Yeah.
like a fantastic idea, a fresh coffee break.
Yeah. All right. So we just leave this up for about 10 minutes and then come back and get started. Is that okay with everybody?
sounds good.
All right. We'll get started just a little bit after 10 o'clock.
Give
I'll
them
send
the
out.
opportunity to resubmit their grant application.
Yep. I can do that pretty easily on DACDB.
And Joe, as far as the global grants are concerned, we have used up every dollar that we had for this year. 2019, 2020, we had one last request come in about a week ago from Heart to Heart. And they said, how much money do you have left in your account? We said, I think 1,374. They said, can we use 1,374? And Shu and I said, okay. So we're down to zero, and that includes our 25% contribution to the Polio Plus. Now, we haven't paid that money yet, but I think Shu wants to do that before his year is over. So as far as your year is concerned, unmute yourself, Joe. You're mute. Okay. You were saying?
I was muted.
Okay.
I
You were
did.
saying something?
I didn't. I did. I'm muted.
So as far as this next year is concerned, we have not earmarked any funding for any global grants yet. So we have the full package available. And that number is, Steve, help me with that. Is that 120?
It'd be right in that neighborhood.
120,000 for global grants.
As we've talked, I did not align with the automatic 20% draw to Polio Plus.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's smart to just wait until the end of the year and see if
You and I talked, I don't think it's fair to our clubs that we designate that money if we do have quality grants in our local district. We'll see what monies are left.
I agree.
Okay.
Well, Joe, how's the hardware business faring during COVID?
Well,
Yeah.
this is a mess.
Yeah.
We've had to hire additional people. You know, it's record-setting sales. I mean, it's a mess. I shouldn't
Really,
say
you have
that.
record
It's
setting
comment,
sales
but
already?
it's difficult to keep up.
Yeah. Hard to get the supplies delivered.
Those related to COVID, yes. And then we earmark them at a manufacturer, and even though they're earmarked, we still don't get them. We've got two big facilities using paper goods, hundreds of cases. And in one case, it was a county jail. They ran out.
Oh, no.
Get it. We're just running into small issues here and there,
Yeah.
but that's expected.
So, okay.
Rob Wyndon, do you think the Fishers Club is preparing for a big global grant this coming year?
Yeah, I know that we've got another, I think we've already started it, Salim, but I'm not sure. I know that Valerie Myers is the one who's spearheading that. So I know that, if I'm not mistaken, I think she's already working on it or has already put it in. I'm not sure.
So this is for 2020, 2021, right?
Yeah, because I think we've got one in the works currently.
Well, let her know that we've got money this year.
Okay, I will do that.
Well, did they actually submit a global grant last year?
No.
I didn't think so.
Not
So
last year.
she's still working. She must still be working on
Working
it.
on,
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're still trying to complete the last one they had authorized, which
Right.
is 2 years old.
right.
So this may work out well.
Yeah.
Good point.
All right. Is everybody back at their screens? There's Don. And Kim is hiding. Okay. Well, let's get started. We're going to go over to DACDB and start going through the grant process, the grants tab, as we talk about. And let's see here. Any luck at all? Is that coming through okay?
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. That's not it. Let's do this again. I've got to. Yeah, okay. All right, now, can people see that?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right, good. All right, so this is the main screen, or let's go here. So this is what you see when you log into DACDB. If you're using the newer interface. And I always have this down. If you go to my club, you come up with all these icons. And of course, you can move these icons around and put them where you want. And depending upon where you move them here, when you go over to any other part of DACDB, you have these little shortcut tabs. So I always keep this grants thing right down here at the bottom because I do use it frequently, right? So whenever you log into DACDB and go to the grants tab, this is what you're going to see. And if people are patient and if they read through this initial offering here, you'll learn about 99% of what you need to know about the district grant process and getting through the DACDB process. So normally what you're going to do as a club member is you're going to come down here to the grants view tab. And of course, since I'm a member of Fishers, this is what I see. And this is where you would work. If you're going to create a new grant, you come over here and just click on this button that says new grant request. And you process through, that gets you started right there. Let me back up just a minute. What if you want to know what's going on in the district? How do you find out about that? Well, here you have the district grant view. If you click that, you see everything that's going on in the district and in what stage. You folks don't get quite all of this, but you get the major fields. And you can see what is going on. And one of the important things, after you create a grant and you want to go back and work on that grant, is this yellow pencil over here. This is the only way that you can get in and work on your grant after you've opened it. If you click on the name of the project, you just get a general review of the project. You can't do anything as far as editing is concerned. You must.
You have to be an authorized person to be able to do that?
Yes. Really, one thing is very important. Normally, you can log into DACDB without your club number, and you can get by. You can see things, that type of thing. But if you want to do anything with district grants, you have to use your club number on that sign in. And if you don't know your club number, just go and open up your club and you'll find it there under your club. Okay, so you got your dash, let's see, you got district view, area view we don't use. That has to do with AGs, assistant governors. Club grants view, secure files. Here's a list of lots of little goodies that you might want to look at. There's that slideshow I sent out for today's program. You have the terms and conditions of the Rotary Foundation, document retention guidelines, memorandum of understanding guide, global grant calculator. This is very important. If you're working on a global grant, you really need this. Rotary Showcase User Guide, Compliance Questionnaire, so forth. So you can look down through there and pick a document that you want to want to use, you just double click it, it downloads, and you're ready to go. So we'll back up. Admin. One of the things that is mentioned under the grant overview is that you have to come in here and set your grant signature, your club signatures. And so here for the Fishers Rotary Club, we have, yeah, we got a mistake. He was present, he was past president, so we get rid of him.
Yep, there you go.
So for every year, you come in here and you put in the club president and the club president-elect. And then when I look at things, I come over here and I look and I can see who has done their thing and put in their data. So for 1920, we're looking pretty good. We could look at 2021. Let's back up. One of the mistakes people make is getting into the wrong year. Ryan, how do I get rid of this thumbnail over here on the right-hand side of all the people that are on this?
Which thumbnail are you
Oh,
trying to eliminate
okay.
here?
Oh, I got it.
Okay. False
Okay,
alarm.
so here you see change org year. So you just come over here and click. Let's take a quick gander at 2021 here. And so this is for next year. Here's this memo again. It's a little different. We try to improve it every year. See where, oh, okay, club signatures. So you can see here that not too many clubs have gotten on ball yet. We kind of contribute that to the COVID issue, but we'll try to encourage those clubs to start thinking about it and getting their jobs done here. Also notice, I don't want to pick on Crawfordsville, but you notice here that they got 4 people listed. Only 2 people, president and president-elect. Anybody else that you want listed for the grant, you put them in the grant under contacts. So we'll show you that in just a minute. If you have any questions, let me know. So let's go back here to Club Grants View. And as you see, we have 2 different grants for Fishers, and this will work out well for us because there's 2 different stages of the process are demonstrated here. So here under the draft, we go to the pencil, and this is whenever you start a grant, this is what you're going to see. This is the initial opening screen. So you have some details to fill in. So here's your title of your grant. Make it short and sweet. If you're going to do a COVID-19 grant, be sure to include the COVID-19 code here in the beginning so that we can acknowledge that. You know, this is a one-time thing for the Rotary Foundation. They are allowing us to spend money, work grants related to COVID-19 before the Rotary Foundation actually approves the grant. We get to work ahead of time here just because of the situation that we're in. So if you have a COVID-19 related project in mind, go ahead and submit it as a regular grant in the 2021 year process. We'll take a look at it. The committee will look at it and say, hey, you know, good or bad, yes or no. And then we'll get back to you and tell you, okay, go ahead and do it. And then when it comes time to fill out the spending plan, we'll just include it. When we get the money in sometime, hopefully mid-July, then we will send you 50% of your grant. at that time. There's a
Steve?
project question.
Steve,
Yeah.
just Shu here, clarity on that. That's anything that a club has started to provide with service from March 1. That
Yeah,
would
March 25th.
Oh, is it March 25th?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay, so if you're going to do, this is an automatic thing here, RI project number. This always appears. It looks blurry here on the screen because I have dash lane, a password manager, and this is one of the negatives of having a password manager. It throws this extra stuff in fields that it shouldn't do. But anyway, this is 9304, I think. And here's your priority, your grant priority. If you're going to do more than one grant, be sure to tell me which grant priority this particular grant is. How important is it to your club? Of course, here is the Rotary grant year that you're working in. And notice, you know, if you screw up and I catch it, which I have done recently, I can change it. You can't change it. I can, you know, if you notice that you've put it in the wrong year, call me and I'll change it for you so you don't have to type in all that information a second time. We don't use this round. This is, some districts will offer 1, 2, or 3 rounds of grant submissions. We just do it all at one time. And then pretty self-explanatory down through here. And you can tell us when your target date of completion is, which is nice. And then the area of focus. You know, Rotary Foundation has 6 areas of focus. And it is very important for global grants that you must have at least one area of focus. For district grants, we don't necessarily have to have an area of focus, so you can use this other over here anytime you want. And of course, now this was the COVID-19, so that's been fixed. And then enter here a project description. What I really want here is a 1-sentence description of your project, because I'm going to take that 1 sentence and use it as part of the spending plan. That's all it takes, is 1 sentence per grant that goes to the Rotary Foundation for approval. So this is your best shot at funding approval through the Rotary Foundation. All this information down here at the bottom is for internal use only, and you don't have to worry about it. So let's go back up here to clubs involved. We have had, on rare occasions, clubs going together and working a grant, and that's fine. You can pool your resources that way and come up with a grant. We have had also, we had a couple of clubs that wanted to do a global grant but couldn't get involvement in the foreign country. And so they each applied for their own individual grant, and we funded that up to $10,000 per club. But each club applied for it individually. So take your pick. You can do whatever you want. You just pick a club here, hit the chevrons, and it appears over here. Or you can take it back. Very simple. Contacts. Now this should be the 3 people in your club, or at least 3 people in your club, that are involved with the project. We want at least 3 people in the club. Now you can see here that we got Jerry, and Jim, because they're president and president-elect. But since we put them in under the signature fields, we don't need them back here on the contact list. So just the people that are really involved with the project are listed here. We go to the application. Pretty self-explanatory here on your date fields. This is a critical entry. Where do you want the money sent? So fill this out. Typically it's your club treasurer. We always, just to make sure that everything is always kept on the up and up, so to speak. All the checks that are sent to your club are always made out to the club, the Rotary Club of, and then sent to this person that is listed here in this field. So now you have the opportunity here to fill out more information about the grant in each of these 4 fields. And then if you have somebody that's working with you, a partner, you can put them in here. And then here is where the tick boxes are for the club president and president-elect. Trying to work with DACDB right now. You have to have these boxes ticked, whoever's creating the grant, and it's probably not the president or president-elect. But these 2 boxes have to be ticked. If they're not ticked, then you can't proceed through the process. So whoever's creating the grant will tick those, and through our training efforts, we're telling the club presidents and president-elects that, hey, to read and understand the MOU. All right, so we move on here to the budget.
Steve, can I add something?
Sure.
Just want to make a comment to everybody. So those 4 tabs at the top are the first 4 tabs you see. You will not see the budget and the documents tab until you save the application at the end of this 4th tab, the application tab. So once you save the document, upper right-hand corner, then you're going to see the budget and documents tab. And as Steve has said, at the top above those tabs, it'll say it in words exactly what I just said. Once you save, you'll see the budget and documents tab.
Right. It's really important, this field up here at the top, read that thing. It will help you understand where you are, and always get in the habit of going up here and hitting this save button. It is critical if you don't want to type it in again to save it on a regular basis. Okay. Once you save it, once you get through that application process and you save it, then as Bob says, you get the budget and the documents fields. So let's look at budget. It's pretty easy to do. You come over here to add an income source, and so you give it, really income sources are pretty much 2 things, really. It's either going to be club fundraising or it's going to be DDF. And so as you can see, cancel this. As you can see here, we have picked club fundraising and then DDF. And you specify that by these radio buttons down here. You enter description and the amount, and then pick one and click add. And then your expenses. Excuse me. You can enter as many expenses as you wish down through here, and the amounts. You just keep adding them on. And you'll see here you have a graphic display making sure that your expenditures meet your income, or vice versa. and the budget summary here, which should, if any luck at all, show 0 right here. That's what you're shooting for. Of course, keep in mind that you could have a lot more expenses than you have, well, no, you can't have more.
You can have more expenses than
You could be spending more money than 50%. You know, we're only going to fund up to $5,000 or $7,500 this year. You could be spending a lot more than that, but so this would not necessarily reflect that. But that doesn't happen very often. The vast majority of all of our grants are just a 50-50 match. And then, of course, save it. Always save it. Documents. Okay, now this is an interesting field, and it gets a little confusing maybe. If you want to upload documents and you want to put them in the documents file, you would just open the file and come over here and do upload, and then you would choose your file, so it would be looking in your computer for that file, and then you can upload it. I would ask you to, receipts and checks and all that kind of stuff, you're going to be scanning those in. Well, your scanner always assigns a number to every scan. Please change that to something that I can understand, like canceled check or receipt from Hoboken Hardware or whatever. Make it make sense to somebody that's going to look at this in the future. And then you have images, you can upload pictures, and you can put them under these tabs, particularly if you have a large project and want to keep things really well organized according to that. I don't mind if you want to just upload it on this field right here. What will happen is this field will just keep expanding downward, and we don't have to go up here in the future and open the documents tab or open the images tab to see what you're putting in there. It just all shows up right here. And so far, I haven't seen more than 6 or 7 entries right here. So you don't necessarily have to embed it in these files. And they don't have to be, I think somewhere in here it talks about putting them in JPEG. If you put it in JPEG, it shows up. If you, let's see, I don't want to go back there. I showed you when you clicked on the name of your grant, when you were looking at it in the club grants view, if you click on the name of your grant, if you upload documents here in the JPEG format, they will show up automatically in that view. But I don't care how you do it, just as long as you get the grants, the paperwork scanned and named and uploaded.
Steve, question.
Sure.
If you want to add more folders in here under backup documents and images, how do you add another folder or a couple of folders?
Right in the right-hand corner here says add folder.
Okay.
But you probably, this stuff these district grants are just not that complex. 99% of them are just really simple, single transaction, or maybe 2 transactions expense-wise projects. It's just really simple, and everything can just be uploaded right here without any trouble. So do whatever, any way you want it. Just name the documents so we understand what they are, so I don't have to sit here and click everything that does appear so to approve the grant. It makes the grant approval process much easier. Okay, so whoever's doing this, they've gotten this far. This documents tab is really not necessary until you actually start closing out the grant. But nevertheless, here it is, and it'll always be here. This documents tab will always be here. So you save the grant. Whoops, wait a minute. You've got this far, and now you want your club president and president-elect to sign it. So how do you do that? Come right up here and say Club Collect Grant Signatures. You click that button, and an email with very specific directions are sent to the club president and president-elect and anybody that is listed in under contacts. So the whole committee gets to see the whole process as it is unrolling. So you just click that, the emails go out, and hopefully the president and president-elect will open their email and they will read it, and they will come back in and they'll review the grant, and there will be a box right up here. Let me move on here to another grant. Let's look at this grant. It's much, you see, this has already been signed by the club officers. And so now you see the activity log and the signature log. This is interesting. This activity log is it's more interesting to me than it is to you. But you can see everything and who did it related to this grant process. So we think that's a nice feature. And then you can see the signature log and see the signatures that have been done. And then this is where I come into play. I can look at it and I can revert it to draft, or I can reject the grant in total, which I really haven't done yet. And then I sign it. And let's see, yeah, we're ready to do this, so I'll just do it live here. We sign the grant. This is what your club president and president-elect see when they go in and to sign their grant. So I sign it. And so now it goes into a different field. Back, let me show you that field. We go to district grant field, district grant view, and you can see club district. Okay, so now here for district review and approval. Here's the one we just did. So it's sitting here. All these other grants are just waiting for me to take their information and put it into the spending plan to be sent to TRF for their approval. Once TRF approves it, I come back in and send you, or I will come back in and click the pencil and approve the grant, and your club officers and your club contacts will each receive a letter saying the grant has been approved, go forth and work your project. Let's go back to club grants and back to SAW there. Well, once the grant has been approved, you'll want to do a final report. And let's see here. I'll just have to, I'm going to say it, this grant is approved.
Steve,
And
you
so,
can change it to 1920 and look at the final report.
Yeah, well, I've already done it.
Okay.
So here, see, once it's approved, you get 2 more tabs. And you have your interim report, which is very simple. Notice it's pre-populated with your description from the application. And then you can tell us what's holding up the project, when you think it's going to be done, and any other pertinent information that you think is required. And you save the interim report. It won't let me do it. So anyway, you save the report, and then there will be a button up there that says collect signatures. And when you push that button, another email is sent to the club officers and the contacts. The club officers will go in and sign it. It's the same process, just happens again. And when you're finally done and ready to submit the final report, here it is. And so it's just, again, it's pre-populated with the pertinent data. You just have to fill in the number of people that benefited, the number of Rotarians who participated, how they participated, and any what the cooperating organization did to help fulfill this project. You would again save it, and you would again submit it for club signatures. The emails would go out. The club officers would approve, sign it. It would come back to me. Let's go back here and look at the district grant view. And it would pop up. Let's go, okay. It would pop up in here under district and, oh, right here. And it would say over here, the status, final report submitted. And I look at this stuff because every time an email goes out, I get a copy of it. So I kind of, in the back of my mind, I'm kind of tracking you. And so I know to come in here and take a look and see what's going on here in this status. And when I see that you have actually submitted a grant for approval, I come in and take a look at it and verify all the information. And if there's anything lacking, I'll let you know. We'll get the proper information collected, and then we go to the next step, which is approval and funding. I authorize the funding, and the district grants treasurer gets an email once I approve it, and she writes the check, and then she completes the grant, and you get another email saying that the grant has been completed and that check is in the mail. Famous statement, the check is in the mail. And that is the grant process in a nutshell. Any questions?
Steve, I think one of we already talked about this, but one of the important things for everybody to understand is that changing that Rotary organization year, when you notice when Steve came up into this, it populates the current Rotary year. But again, your training for today is for next year's Rotary grant year. So you have to, if you're putting in a new application, you got to be sure to change the org year to the correct year when you're filling out that application. Now, the benefit is you can also go back and see how other members of your club, maybe another grant committee member, had done it a few years ago. So you can go back to 2018, 2019, if there's similar data or similar grant that was applied for in that Rotary year. So it's really important to make sure you get the right Rotary year.
Thank you, Bob.
Steve, I'm seeing in the Lebanon grant approval,
Uh-huh.
to me, it's unusual, a $500 DDF and a $700 other funding. Isn't that normally a 50-50?
Right. Well, Well, they must have asked for it. Let's see, what's it? Oh, this was a COVID. No, they didn't. They screwed up and they didn't put the COVID thing on there. This was, let's look at this. The budget, they're asking for 500 and they're going to provide 700. They must have come up with $700.
But is that unusual though? I usually see them
Yes.
50/50. Great.
Yeah, it's
Right.
normally 50/50.
Thank you.
Sure. I'm glad you looked at that. I'll change this name to get it related to they're buying meals for Boys and Girls Club, the people who attend the Boys and Girls Clubs. Very worthwhile grant.
Yeah, what that is, Steve, is they have a boys club that's feeding children, up to 250 children per day
Wow.
that were on free lunch in the school
Right.
and are doing a beautiful job with it.
Now, this is one that I probably should. I just moved this over here. It was in the wrong year, and I moved it over here.
Steve,
So,
this DAC-DB module contains reference to the 5,000 that we need to go in and revise now, right?
yes, up here in the grant overview,
Right.
we can put that in here. Someplace in here we have that up to number I can't remember. Right here.
Yeah.
We can change this for
Just for this year.
just this year. Anybody else got any questions? If you do have questions, feel free to give me a call and or send me an email. If you have a process question about the website, be sure to be in front of your computer. And most of the time, we can walk you right through whatever issue you're having and get you back on track pretty easily. Because I can look, this is one nice thing about the DAC-DB program is you can have it open several occurrences of the same screen or the same login open at one time. So I can look at your grant as you're looking at your grant, and we can work through it.
Which of
And I
course
guess the
we
most
have done
important.
many times.
Okay.
Steve, I have a question. Are you ready
Okay.
for questions?
Sure.
Is there anything special we have to do to use grant funding for scholarships for high school graduates?
No, just
We've
create.
never done that, and I've noticed those all through here.
Yes. Yeah, that's a very popular thing to do for a club to offer grants, scholarships to the high school kids. I think Rotary's been doing that since it began. Seems like.
Yeah, we offer scholarships, but we've never used grant money to enhance
Right.
those.
Right. Well, this is your opportunity.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I will tell you that last year we were we had so many applications that we actually did run out of money last year. And one of the things that we trimmed first was the high school scholarships. We cut them. The very first thing that we did was cut the scholarships. So just I think that seems to be the easiest place. That has the least amount of impact is with the scholarships.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. What else? Just be sure when you log in to log in with your club number. That is key to being able to get around inside the grants module, because if you don't log in with the number, some of those little boxes up in the right-hand corner to submit for club signature and submit for grant approval and things like that, they won't appear. So you're stymied. You're thinking, what in the world am I doing? I can't work this. Well, you just need to be sure to enter your club number. Crucial. And in order to do approvals, everybody in DAC-DB has got a security level. The average everyday Rotarian is a level 1. And committee chairs are usually a level 3. President officers are level 4. And then it goes into district levels 5, 6, and 7. So you want to make sure that whoever's working on the grant is probably a level 4. If they're a level 3, they probably won't be able to submit for a signature, but they can always send an email to the club president and say, hey, go in and submit the grant for signature, sign it, and move it on. So there's always a workaround, but if you make the person, that's another good reason to have a grants person in your club, and make them a level 4 and let them kind of supervise the whole process. It'll be easier for the club, and it'll be easier for me. Questions?
Steve, if you'd be so kind, would you explain as to how a club could help that person get to a level 4? Who do they contact? How does that happen?
Okay, very good, thanks. You contact the club secretary. The club secretary has the authorizations to go in and change any member of the club to any level that they're, up through officer level. Anything else?
Thank you.
Shu, when is our next district Zoom meeting?
We had one planned for this week, but it was a Indianapolis Colts person, but they got a conflict and were not able to follow through with it. But we're looking at next week on Thursday evening at 7 o'clock. And this would be focusing on millennials. We'll have a group of millennials that will be present on the Zoom, a lady, a gentleman or two in their 30s, and talking about what this means regarding the COVID-19, the effect upon them, their generation, and their involvement in Rotary. We want to get some younger people on that Zoom meeting, and I think that's extremely important for our district's future.
Absolutely.
Good.
Okay, I can't look out really and see the looks of confusion very readily. But if this is the time to ask the questions, I'll be happy to help you out any way I can. We've been doing this since 2010 with about a 2 or 3 year hiatus for other things. But the DAC-DB has helped a lot. It's caused some issues, but it solves more problems than it creates, and I like it a lot because it does offer you the storage of the documents and that kind of thing. You just have to be aware that the documents go away could possibly go away in that 6th year.
So Steve, for understanding, if anyone is filling out all of the information, which is a lot, regarding the grant, and they kind of stumble along the way, they can make a contact with you in terms of help to get it completed.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
just that most Rotarians are not familiar with all of what you've shared with us today.
Right.
And we deeply appreciate how you've helped us to see a little more light in
Good.
terms of creating the grant
Sure.
and seeing the service and generosity of clubs in helping the community.
Steve, I do have a question.
Okay.
When you're doing the budget, if you have the budget broken down on various expenses and you end up maybe overspending in one area, underspending in another, do you need to do a revision?
No. Just as long, the bottom line is keep in mind that this whole process began back in 2010, where the Rotary leadership saw and back in 2005, the Rotary leadership saw that Rotarians were taking advantage of this 50-50 match or matching in general for grants. And they saw that their staff was being overwhelmed, and they decided we got to do something. So in 2010, they came out with a future vision plan, and the major part of the future vision plan was that the districts take over district grants, and they really didn't offer what they said at our training that was Salim and I went to out in San Diego. They said, well, here's how we're going to do global grants, and you handle district grants. And so we had to dream up all the forms, all that stuff, for everything to do with district grants. And then finally DAC-DB came along. They were 2 or 3 years getting out of the gate. But basically, we have the approval process right here in the district. And what we want to see is, number one, we know that we approved your grant, and we're not interested in the down, the nitty gritty of what goes on there. If you spent the money and you got a letter from somebody saying thank you for doing this or whatever, you've shown that you've done the work. Basically, that's what we're looking for.
Okay.
to issue the reimbursement.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
We want to keep it simple. We haven't had, we have not had one grant that I would have questioned the legitimacy of. We're dealing with Rotarians. Rotarians are honest, upstanding people. And we know that it's just because of the process. All these letters that go out, they go out to the club officers, they go out to the contact list. Everybody knows what's going on. And so, if there was something amiss, I think we would hear about it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
We appreciate all your efforts, Steve.
Sure, it's our pleasure. Woohoo, okay.
Great job, Steve.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, well, Salim, do you have any other words of wisdom, or Joe?
I think you've done a great job today. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you, sir.
I'm glad it's taped.
We're counting on Joe to find our replacement a year from now.
I've been
Yeah,
taking notes this evening.
Anybody interested in this position,
Yeah.
please apply.
I have a good working knowledge of DAC-DB.
Yeah.
In all honesty, Steve and I have been doing this now on our second round of 3-year assignments. So we've been serving now for 6 years in these positions, and you can never get tired of doing good in the world, but nevertheless, I think some fresh blood needs to come into the picture and and administer these programs from here on. So we'll still be serving through Joe's year, but at the end of Joe's year, probably a new committee will be taking over.
You've both done a great job. We sure appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, hey, we want to give you both a clap for what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Woo-hoo.
All right. All right.